Right now, the meat industry, on a scale of many billions of animals, is castrating pigs for the convenience of human beings. Do you really feel that it's different to castrate a pig in order to produce meat for human consumption, for human enjoyment, than it is to castrate a pig so that it can be a household pet for human enjoyment? I have no difficulty whatsoever as a vegan in saying to you that castrating a pig so that it will be a better behaved house pet, so that it will not develop more of the characteristics of a wild boar, of an adult male pig, more of the aggressive behaviors, more of the physical characteristics, etc. I find that just as immoral as castrating a pig so that it will remain docile on a farm, and so that it will not develop the characteristics that human beings do not want in an animal raised to be slaughtered for meat. I see no contradiction in that. I don't see why this is beyond the absurdity of speciesism. I do not see why anyone who is vegan would offer a moral justification for castrating a pig for human use in one scenario as opposed to the other. This whole conversation began with my presenting the example of baby pigs, of cute baby pigs that are being presented to vegans as a symbol of what this movement is all about. And I explained why, for me, that's actually a deeply problematic, morally troubling symbol for people to be rallying around. Yes, baby pigs can be cute, but our understanding of what a pig is should be based on the behavior of pigs in the wild boars, whatever you want to say. And we should not be overlooking the really serious moral questions that are involved in taking a pig, depriving it of any access to its natural habitat, any opportunity to exercise its natural behaviors, and indeed harming that pig in some very real ways, including castration, so that it will sleep next to the couch while you're watching TV, so that it will happily run around the living room, so that it won't develop the type of aggressive behaviors that would be inconvenient for human beings. Mutilating a pig for human convenience, for human entertainment, for human enjoyment is in some ways much more perverse than mutilating a pig in order to produce meat. Okay? Meat has some utility. Even though I'm a vegan and I'm opposed to it, I can't deny that meat feeds people. I can deny that spending your time taking a pig and forcing it to act like a toy, I can deny that that has any real utility for human beings or for the animals themselves. I can question what is the point of doing this to a pig. And in many ways, what vegans are doing in castrating a pig in order to raise it as a household pet really can be seen as more immoral and more perverse than, for example, hunting in the woods, killing a wild boar and eating it. At least that wild boar knew what it was like to be alive, to be free, to be wild before it died. And a pig taken away from its parents, castrated, raised by human hands, fed by human hands, spending its time in a living room, running around behind the couch. If we can overcome this hurdle of seeing the difference between a pig being castrated for slaughter and a pig being castrated to be a household pet, why do we have such a difficulty in comparing the pig to a dog? Speciesism is a deeply flawed concept. It's a rarely useful concept. I do not think we can make it the main or central concept of veganism, but sometimes it's useful. I can remember vegans having t-shirts saying, "Why do you love one and kill the other?" directly contrasting a pig to a dog. Well, I am asking the same question, and vegans have responded by offering the same excuses that meat eaters offer, arguing that a dog is really, intrinsically, inherently, transcendentally, very different from a pig. Well, I disagree, and I disagree because I'm vegan. And for me, this disagreement actually is central to the concept of veganism and to the question of what it means to be vegan. Maybe you don't feel that way, and maybe you have an intelligent argument for why that is. However, one other YouTuber, Swayze, Unnatural Vegan, to my eyes, completely failed to present any kind of convincing argument on that front. Now, I've had many questions on this topic, and I've answered many questions. The videos exploring the issue now add up to a couple of hours on my own channel, I think. Domestication, pets, etc. One question I think I've never been asked by anyone on Patreon is simply, how do I actually feel about Swayze? What do I actually think about Unnatural Vegan? I think that's because regular viewers of my channel already know, without my spelling it out. I do think that Unnatural Vegan, Swayze, is stupid and immoral and dishonest. And I think that her conduct on this issue, in response to the substance at the core of the issue, and in response to myself personally, has really demonstrated in a powerful way, for me, just how stupid and immoral and dishonest a person she is. Why would anyone who is an ethical vegan present the argument that a dog is not even aware that it is castrated if you castrate it, and therefore it does not suffer, and therefore you as a human do not do any harm to it in castrating the dog? To me, that argument is immoral and dishonest and stupid. If you genuinely believe that animals are not harmed, that you do not do something immoral, that you are not harming an animal, if, for example, you kill it while the animal is completely unaware, for example, a gunshot that hits a wild bird in the head, a gunshot that obliterates the skull of the bird so quickly that the bird goes from being alive to being dead immediately, and that bird managed to live in the wild, live in the forest, live a natural life up to the moment it died. Do you really think there's nothing morally significant in that act? Do you think there is nothing significant in the difference between a living bird and a dead one, and the decision and the action taken by a human being in doing that because the bird may be unaware of it? Now, secondly, I do not accept the notion that a dog, a male dog, could possibly be unaware that it was castrated. And I mentioned that I have actually seen studies on this, and those studies may be biased. But among the very obvious empirical data to consider is the fact that male dogs literally lick their own testicles. They see them, they smell them, they're aware of them, they lick them. It may be disgusting, but this is one of many differences between human beings and canines. And yes, dogs also have an incredibly keen sense of smell, particularly for the hormones of their own species, because in the wild, a large part of their life has to do with marking their territory, smelling other dogs, recognizing other dogs, knowing their own scent, recognizing their own hormones, the hormones of other dogs, etc. Okay? The hormonal lives of dogs are complex, but whether they know it through their eyes, through their nose, or with their tongue, it is totally laughable to suggest that a male dog would be unaware that it was castrated. Apart from, and this is secondary to the question of whether or not you as a human being have done something more, have done harm to the dog, if it were unaware. Clearly, dogs are aware. And why are you doing it? Why would this be different from castrating a pig on a farm, or castrating a pig to make it into a pet? I think this justification, I think it's immoral, and I think it's dishonest, and I think it's dumb. And as a vegan, I feel no hesitation in sharing that opinion with you. In reality, what people want to know is, how dare I be so honest about someone who did support me in a conflict with Durian Rider, with another vegan, a vegan who threatened to beat me up, threatened to put me in prison, take me to the cops, a vegan who defamed me and claimed I was a wife beater and so on. Let me turn that question around. How would my response to this be different? And what would you think of me? if instead it were Durian Rider who were offering arguments that were, from my perspective, so immoral, so dishonest, so stupid, as what Swayze has had to say on this issue of domestication of animals as pets, castration in specific. She's been equally, the flip side of this argument is talking about animals being feral. She just very lazily suggests that anyone who disagrees with her is indulging in pseudoscience, that it's pseudoscience to claim that domesticated pigs can turn feral, can become feral pigs, can revert to wild behaviors, and within a couple of generations, to a remarkable extent, even recover their wild physical characteristics. It's not pseudoscience. It's not. If you have any real-world experience with feral pigs, every continent that human beings inhabit now has feral pigs, because pigs do escape from farms. They do go to the forest. They do form packs again and start all those behaviors again. You can see this in the United States. You can see it in Australia. You can see it here in Asia. I had fan mail from someone in Southeast Asia who had been attacked by feral pigs and was writing to me saying, I can't believe these vegans have no idea what wild pigs are like or what feral pigs are like, etc. Counter-arguments like, if domesticated pigs escape into the forest, not all of them survive. Let me tell you something. 0 survive, okay? The mortality rate on planet Earth is 100%. 100% of animals in the wild die sooner or later. Immortality is not an option. And yes, life in the wild for wild animals is nasty, brutish, and short. Yes, they live in fear. They hunt one another. They roam. They explore. Life for a wild animal in its natural habitat is in no way comparable to life sleeping next to the couch while a human being watches TV, being fed by human hands. No, they're not comparable. They're profoundly different. And I think I'm the only person in this debate between myself and Unnatural Vegan who's really interested in reflecting on what that difference is. And I'm not interested in getting into the sort of self-deception of morally justifying an act like castration. Least of all when that castration is simply for the entertainment of human beings, to make a pet, to make an animal more docile, to deprive it of its adult behaviors, to deprive it of its hormones, to deprive it of its instincts, to deprive it of the adult male domineering behaviors that animal would have. Whether we're talking about a pig, a cute baby pig growing up into an ugly, scary wild boar, or a feral boar, or what have you, or whether or not we're talking about dogs and cats having their will broken, being reduced to playthings for human entertainment. Okay? I hope you guys get the sense that for me, in the beginning, in the middle, the end, this is not a trivial issue. The ethical issue is not trivial. It's not incidental to, it's not peripheral to veganism. For me, it gets at many fundamental questions. And if Durian Rider had said the same things that Unnatural Vegan did, Swayze did, very likely I would have made a very similar video, or series of videos. At this point I say it's not one video. Adds up to a lot of footage, if you guys aren't aware. Quite a few videos dealing with this, and among the most ridiculous things Unnatural Vegan has done is to pretend that I never talked about the subsidies, that I only said her comments were beneath contempt, and that I wasn't well, her perspective is beneath contempt, but I have now given a very substantive series of videos talking about this issue from front to back, from many different angles, dealing with different elements, and dealing with some of the intelligent questions that viewers sent me. Viewers like you, people on Patreon, people on this YouTube channel. They did enrich this discourse, and many of you guys have made comments on this that were much more intelligent than anything Unnatural Vegan said, and that's why I responded to them. That's why I responded to you guys, and not to what Unnatural Vegan had to say. We all have to make hard decisions, practical, real-life, day-to-day decisions about the meaning of life, what we want to do. For me, in this school, I'm currently in school, if you don't know, and on the internet, on this strange demi-monde of vegan YouTube or what have you, whatever part of the internet you inhabit. If I treated Unnatural Vegan differently from the way I treat Durian Rider, I would feel dishonest. I would feel immoral. I would feel stupid. If Durian Rider presented the same stupid, immoral argument that Unnatural Vegan had presented, I would have criticized Durian Rider in the same way. And I do not regret at all that I brought a really honest discussion of one of the most taboo issues in 21st century veganism right to the fore. I think a lot more good than harm has come out of this bizarre dispute between myself and Unnatural Vegan.